marvelous thing. In St. Mark's Gospel, the bishop has just come in, the Bishop L.D. Skinner. Would you just stand and wave at all of us, Bishop? God bless you. All the way from Columbus, Georgia. Amen. Anybody from Georgia out there? Ooh, only one from Georgia. Everybody else from Texas. And Louisiana. Ooh, Lord, don't let me start that. In St. Mark's Gospel, chapter 9, beginning at verse 14, I'm going to read a little quicker than usual. And of course, Jesus is coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning with them. And straightway, and that's Mark's reoccurring word, straightway, all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed, and running to him, saluted him. And he asked the scribes, what question ye with them? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. And wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, he foameth, he gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. He answereth him, saith, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer with you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, how long is it ago since this came unto him? And he said, of a child. And oftentimes it hath cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said unto him, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. Now notice now, if thou canst do anything, and Jesus now plays on the word anything. And his response is, if thou canst believe, all things. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried and rent him sore, came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, he is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand, lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said, because you eat too much. This kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fast. I'm sorry, I just said I couldn't help myself. Now there's something here that I have read this thing and I thought I was prepared, but there's something here that I didn't notice. And I noticed that Jesus said, in all of my years of preaching, I didn't pay attention. He says, come out of him and enter no more into him, which suggests to me that you can cast the devil out and he can come back in. Now I understand better the demon that left, and when the house was swept clean, he came back and he brought 7 more, worse than he was, to make sure he never got cast out again. That's it. I think I'm going to work on that. That's interesting. Just look at your neighbor very gently and say, why ask for anything when you can ask for all things? Amen. It is interesting that everything in life relates to power and power encounters. There is absolutely no way for us to operate within the parameters of our lives and not understand that everything in life relates to power and power encounters. There is value then in understanding the power that is in you, particularly when it is in juxtaposition to the divine power with the powers that are without. Before Bryant became my driver, and yes, Lionel Coulter, Dr. Coulter used to drive me to church. And Dr. Coulter made it clear to me one day that he quoted that power does not operate in a vacuum. Nobody understands the significance of the struggle if there is no struggle, and there can only be a struggle if you have contradistinctive or antithetical opposing powers. Life is a struggle, and it's made up then of one power against another power. If you hold out on me, I will tell you that anybody who is in here and clothed in their right minds have to have overcome something. If you're still here and you haven't lost your mind and you have control of your faculties and you can operate within the parameters of life and still have achievements and still maintain who you are, then you have been strong enough to prevail to this point. That means you have had some victories. Many times we are so down on ourselves until we don't really appreciate the little victories that we have had, and we don't appreciate the fact that if I'm still here after all of these years with all of the opposing forces, then I must have some strength in me somewhere. I'll go to the text later in more detail, but Jesus asked the man the question, when has this been going on? How long has it been going on? And he answered, since he was a child. And even though the young man was in what we would regard as a powerless situation, he was still there, even under the attacks since he was a child. I would ask you this question, and that is, how long has the opposing powers been trying to devour you? And how long have you been in a battle for your life? And the only answer you could give me is since I was a child. Because children aren't exempt from the struggles of life. And oftentimes it's the struggles of life that happened in their sojourn that when they became older, the struggles became greater or the struggles became more manageable. We are still fighting things that happened in our childhood because we have always been in a battle. But if it has happened since he was a child and he was still alive when the enemy was trying to drown him and the enemy was trying to burn him up, and if the enemy hadn't yet succeeded in burning him up, then he already was having some victories. You see, many times you are looking sensually at what is happening on the outside of you, but you have not yet understood that if you're in the middle of it and you are not gone yet, then there has to be some strength that is keeping you up in the middle of difficult and hard situations. Emily Dickinson, here's what she said, and I quote, she said, "To be alive is power. Existing in itself without a further function is omnipotence enough," unquote. All encounters are power encounters. So she realizes, and I will agree, that just to live suggests you have survived counter forces. And because of that fact, then you must give yourself some credit for having overcome something, because just to be alive means that I have been able to sustain myself in spite of how I have been attacked. Jesus takes it further, and Jesus declares to be alive is power. And power then is the ability to cause or to prevent change. Even at my age, there are things in my life that I have to change. There are things in my life that I desire to change. But at my age, change doesn't come easily. Because I've done whatever I've done for so long that it is ingratiated in my spirit, and for me to come out of it means I've got to just grit my teeth and come up with the strength to put it behind me. Give you an example. I had the 2 surgeries last year, and because of the 2 surgeries, I couldn't work out like I should. I couldn't swim like I should. Because of the 2 surgeries, it changed my workout habits, and I became more TV-oriented, more reading-oriented, and more laying down in the bed-oriented. Now the time has come when I have been released by the doctors to go and work out, which means now I've got to change back. I keep on saying I'll do it next Monday. And then next Monday becomes next Monday, and next Monday becomes next Monday, because now I have been acclimated to laying around, watching TV, reading books when I need to go out and sweat. Now, if I'm going to change back, I've got to have the power to make the change, because the change is not going to come unless I exert the effort. And the effort has to overcome what I have now become used to. So even in the simple things of life, I have to have power. I know that eating certain things is not healthy, but I don't have the power not to eat it because it tastes so good. You know that pork is running your blood pressure up. You know it is. But now in order to resist it, you have to have the power. You have to have the internal power to tell yourself, I'm not going to eat this good looking, smell good pork chop. I'm just going to leave it right where it is. And just when you decide that you want to make a change in your life, the thing that you want to change from keeps showing up. I wish somebody'd understand me. Power. And then of course it's the power to change. And then there is power that's needed to prevent change. For the good things that you do and the good things that you exercise and practice in, there's always an influence to pull you away from it. The good things that you have done to bless other people, and sometimes there's always somebody else who is interfering. Somebody else has an idea, and just to even overcome what other people think of you and say of you and to feel good about yourself takes a power in and of itself. Some of us are so accustomed to reacting to people, and some of us are so accustomed to giving them an audience even though they don't know us, and even though we heard what somebody else heard. We need power to shut it out. And we need power to take in the things that are positive and the things that make us feel good. What I'm saying is every time you turn around, you're in a power struggle. Now, power has 2 dimensions. One is power as potentiality, or it is latent power. This power has not yet been fully developed, but it is the ability to cause change in the future. This power is laying within you, or lying. I'll get the words mixed up, but this power is in you right now. And to understand that it's there is to understand that you are a bundle of potentiality. That means that whatever I am now, I have the potential for more, or I have the potential for less, depending on my source of reckoning. And so now, the potential is there. And oftentimes the frustration of life comes when we haven't realized the fullness of our potential. It's there, it's inside of you, and you have to recognize it. And this potentiality, we speak of the future change as possibility. I did Latin when I was growing up, and I didn't like it too much. But now that I'm in the etymology kind of a situation, Latin comes very important. The Latin word here comes from, possibility comes from pose, and this means to be able. That means even though you have not exercised in the latent power that's in you, you still have the ability when the time comes to express what you are. You see, you have to understand who you are, because so many people can categorize you who don't know you like you know yourself. And it takes power to shut the audience out and listen to what's happening in your own spirit. You're not going to succeed because everybody says it. You're only going to succeed because you say it. Amen. And if you listen to everybody, you'll be like a puppet, like a pawn. If everybody's regulating your life, you're a pawn. But you really are a king or a queen. So don't live like a pawn when you are a king or a queen. But you're only a king or a queen when you think it. I'm going to have some church today. I'm going to have some church. Have I told you touch your neighbor yet? No, it's going to be a while. It's a critical thing now because pose to have the ability, and I didn't like it then, I like it now. I delve in a little Latin now, because then as a child I would say Latin is as dead as can be. It killed the Romans and is now killing me, and I'd avoid the classes. But nonetheless, the other dimension of power is actuality. And actuality, as defined, is what we call reality. It is the state of being actual. Life, without a doubt, then, is, as another writer would put it, as dynamic actuality. And that is dynamic relating to a physical force or energy, and actualization to make actual or to realize. So now I'm living in two dimensions. I'm living in the actuality or reality dimension. And many times we get stuck by our sensual perception in the reality of our situation or our environment. And then, of course, on the other side of that, we operate with the things of God, and he shows us potentiality or possibility. Oh God, I'm working awful hard, but it's okay. It's critical now, because in actuality, people say, well, this is reality, and for you to believe that you can be more than you are right now based on the facts and based on the history of your family, or based on the history of your behavior, or based on the things that have happened in your environment, for you to even project that possibility, people will say you're not being real. You know how people say, man, you're not dealing with reality. Come on, man. You can never achieve that. And sometimes we get so bogged down in the actuality of the situation or the environment that we no longer dream about the potentiality or the possibility that's lying latent in me. You've got me focusing on the actuality of my situation, but I'm only passing through into the potentiality of my future. Don't make my present my whole life, because I have come through my past to my present, and my present is indicative of the fact that I have a future. So whatever I have not become now doesn't mean I won't become it then. Can I go over it again? Now, let's say you're here now and you have stored up some wisdom. You have stored up some experiences. You have gone through some things. And whatever you have gone through, to a great extent, has made you, no, to a full extent, what you've gone through have made you who you are right now. Now think with me, please, that you have accumulated some pain, and you've accumulated some good things. You've accumulated some experience, and you have gained some wisdom. You've accumulated some finance. You've accumulated some managerial skills. You've accumulated the skills that have brought you to where you are. I don't care what level you are. Now, what if you would take everything that you have accumulated and say, this now becomes my investment into my future? Should I go over that again? For instance, I invested when I was younger, and I have received the results or the dividends from the investments, which means now I am not as poor as I was then. Now, what I do now is I look at everything that I've accumulated, and I'll say to myself, let me take everything that I've accumulated and let it be the investment for my future. If I'm here with what I've had in the past, and I take everything I have right now to invest it into my future, then tell me, how far am I getting ready to go? You can't hold me to today when I understand the possibility of tomorrow. I'll share something with you that I don't think my friend would mind. When my friend was doing Woman Thou Art Loose, he took everything he had. He said to Sarita, I'm going to take everything I have and I'm going to put it into this project. Everything I've saved, everything I've put together to do something with it today, let's cancel what we're going to do today and let me put it together for this project. The rest is history. You see, we have to have the faith to take everything that we have acquired and put it up as a seed for what God will bring to pass. I feel like shouting. Give somebody a high five and say, you got some stuff that you can use to take you higher. I feel the Holy Spirit. But don't allow people to tell you that where you are now is the last place you'll be. I'm passing through. Oh God, I haven't realized everything I am. And that's why you're constantly studying and you're constantly evolving and you're constantly growing. What Jesus does is he takes the actuality and he implicitly and explicitly deals with both in this statement. The statement, he says, is the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I am come that ye might have life and have it more abundantly. Now, first of all, you cannot steal what does not exist. Something has to be there. And the next thing about stealing is it doesn't belong to you. If you're going to steal it, you're taking it from somebody else. One of the problems is that we have allowed people to grandiloquently steal our future. I wish I could talk to you. Steal it by the negatives that they have planted in our spirit. Steal it because they saw something in us that they did not own. And because they didn't own it, their envy didn't want it to get to the next level. People try to steal your potentiality by stealing your vision, by stealing your future, by stealing your destiny, by stealing your purpose. And they take it by giving you negative feed. And before you know it, they move from stealing it to murdering it. Oh God, I feel it here. And they'll murder who you are while you're living, and they'll murder you so your future will not come to pass, because they can't control the potentiality. They'll kill it before it comes to pass. They want you to stay in the actual and forget the potential, because your potential is way too big. Oh God, for them to handle. Oh God, I feel it in here. Touch somebody, say, don't let them steal it, don't let them murder it, and they will not destroy it. He comes to destroy the possibility. But Jesus says, I have come to improve the possibility. I have come now to make your possibility even greater. The destroyer has not defeated you yet. You're still here. Oh, touch somebody, say, I'm still here. Oh yeah, he's tried, but I'm still here. He's tried to kill it, but I'm still here. He's tried to destroy it, but I'm still here. But power is actuality in this dimension, and Jesus says, I came that you might have life abundant. That power is possibility in this dimension, fighting so viciously to maintain your power as reality. You fail to release and process the power of possibility. Here's what one writer says, and I quote. He says, I came not to preserve a life already possessed, but to impart a life not yet known and communicate it to you in rich and unfailing exuberance. Actual, that's what I have, and it's good. Possibility is what I will have, and it's better. Remember, Jesus is saying, I have the ability to cause or prevent change. Can I go deeper before I go higher? The ancient Greek philosophers defined power as being actually without power. And what they were saying is, since power is the ability to change, then it's a moving kind of a thing. Heraclitus, and here's what Heraclitus said. He says, being is in continual flux. Dallas. And we say it like this: I'm always going through changes. But the changes is to move me to the higher place and the greater position, because I understand how to use the wisdom of what I'm going through. Tell your neighbor, where I am, I didn't come to stay. I'm going through. Now, I discovered something about going through. I've discovered that oftentimes you go through a small city. And I have been in the car driving, and I go through a place like Cleveland, Mississippi, with maybe 14 or 15,000 people. Then I'm coming through Dallas, Texas. Now, when I go through Mississippi, it's a small going through Cleveland. But when I'm going through Dallas, it's a bigger going through. But the kind of things I see in Dallas going through gives me a greater wealth of knowledge, even though I've been in there longer. You see, we want to go through small experiences, but it's going through the big ones that gives you the knowledge to handle on a level you couldn't handle. Oh God, the operative word is going through. I'm not staying here. I've got more in me than what's outside of me, and I can't wait for it to come to pass. I feel you. Pull on your neighbor. Pull on real hard and say, come on through, come on through, come on through. There's some stuff in you that the world has not seen yet, because it's still in you, and it's time to give birth to it, so the world will know that God set it in you for the benefit of the world. Oh God, I feel it here. Can I preach like I feel it? When I was in Longview, Texas, I had a local footprint, but the potentiality for a global footprint was there. The global footprint didn't come when I started going global. I already had the potentiality for global. What do you have the potential for is what you should begin to believe in. Not where I am in Longview, but the world is my pulpit. I feel like shouting. Give somebody a high five and say, you're settling for anything when you can have all. I feel something helping me, Pat. I feel something moving here. And so now, Paul Tillich, the ontological thinker, he says that power as the power of being. And because you're evolving, you're moving from level to level. The text underlines the philosophical definitions of power. But notice the stages and of the narrative aspects. The Father has a vision of hope. All the Daddy has is, I've got hope. I've got hope that this is not going to be the last stage of my son. And the reason my hope has come alive is because I heard about a man named Jesus. And faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. He assumed because Jesus was so powerful that his disciples were powerful too. So while Jesus is on the Mount of Transfiguration, he brought his son to his disciples. I don't talk about church folk because I'm one of them, but you cannot allow church folk to stop you from getting to Jesus. And there are some people in the streets who have more positive attitudes than people in church. I'm sorry I had to say that, but I heard Jesus himself say that the children of the world are wiser than the children of life. You can get all of your dreams snatched out of your mind sitting right in the pew. But I came to see Jesus. I came to get a blessing from the Lord. And I'm not going to let no deacon, I'm not going to let no choir leader, no choir member, no musician, I ain't going to let no sad deadhead saint stop me, no traditionalist. I ain't going to let no long dress or short dress stop me. If the preacher won't live right, that ain't going to stop me, because I've come to Jesus and I will not leave here without a blessing. I feel like lifting him up. I feel a little church coming on. Give somebody a high five. Say, don't let a thing stop you. This boy is going to leave here healed. I'm going to get my blessing. I'm going to get my blessing. I'm going to get my blessing. If I got to lay out in here, I'm going to get my blessing. He brings a boy that is powerless. And my word to you is, if you see me powerless, bring me, carry me. If I can't walk to my blessing, carry me to my blessing. I need somebody in my friend group that's willing to carry me. I got too many folk who are willing to talk about me. Don't talk about me, carry me. Carry me to the throne. Carry me into the house in Capernaum. Carry me to the source of power so that I can come out of there without the demons that's bothering me. I feel the Holy Ghost. Then you got the devil who is in control, but there's a stronger than the strong man. Then you've got the onlookers, the people in the gallery who are whispering about what it is you're going through. But I'm so glad you got Jesus. You've got the source of power. You've got the greatest power the world has ever known. And when you approach him, I pray that you research him before you come to him, because all power is in his hand. And if you believe, I feel like shouting. Give somebody a high five. Say, I am a believer in spite of what I'm going through. A believer. I believe I'm coming out with a mighty hand. I believe he will deliver me in spite of the enemy. I believe him when he said, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. No weapon, no weapon, nobody's mouth, nobody's attitude, nobody's conspiracy, nobody's back room trying to destroy me. No weapon, no witch, no sorcerer, no demon, nothing, nothing, nothing. Y'all pray for me today, but I feel like lifting him up. I feel a breakthrough coming. Give somebody a high five. Say, this is not a breakdown. This is a breakthrough. Through to my victory, through to my power, through to my joy. I'm going through to my next level. I feel like giving God some praise. Can I give him 2 minutes of praise? No, 5 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. He said, Lord, if you can do anything for me, heal my son. The Lord said, I don't do anything. I do all things. You're selling me too short. You're holding me down. Increase your faith, and I'll show you something you'll never see. Give somebody a high five. Say, girl, are you single? Tell somebody, say, are you single? Say, now, baby, if you're single and you're going to God, don't ask him for any man. Ask him for all. Give me all, man, Jesus. I don't need any house. Give me all house. I don't need any job. Give me all job. I don't need any car. Give me all that meets my need. I don't need any money, but give me all that I can handle. He's all. Somebody say all. All things are possible. All things. All things. I dare you to ask. I dare you to ask. And let God show you how powerful he is. Give somebody a high five for the last time. Say, neighbor, increase what you ask for. You just might. You got it in you. It's in you. It's in you. Tell somebody it's out. I'm coming out.